Welcome back to the PIO podcast. Today I'm joined by Erinn Reyes, the Director of Communications for the City of Garden City, Kansas. She's a public information officer for the City Police Department as well. Erinn works at the intersection of municipal government, communications, and public sector messaging, managing everything from crisis communications to community engagement and citywide information strategies. We're going to talk about balancing those dual roles, building trust in a diverse community, and what modern public communication really looks like today. Erinn, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Robert. If I ever need an introduction or a hype man, you are my person.
Anytime. So you recently moved into the role as Director of Communications for the city from being just a PIO for the police department. How did that come about?
So this happened just before Christmas. It was a wild December, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. So I'd been with the police department at that point for nearly 8 years, but specifically doing the social media PIO work for 5 of those years. Really, I'd been just kind of working my way, growing, progressing, moving along, and then the position for the communications director opened up with the city. And at that point, I had been going back and forth internally, like, hey, am I at a position where I'm ready to promote, or at least want to take the opportunity for personal growth's sake? And I did. And some way, somehow I got promoted, and I've been in this position, like I said, since December. And it's been a very well worth learning experience. I'm learning something new every day, and I'm just having a lot of fun with it.
I'm sure you are. What originally drew you into public communications or public safety communications specifically?
So I have a very interesting backstory. Mass communications is my background, specifically radio. When I was in high school, I worked at our local radio station in Goodland, Kansas. That is in Northwest Kansas. And I truly believe I had the best job a high schooler could have. I was doing on-air work. I was doing the onboard or the board production work. So running the boards for any high school or local events and just doing a lot of behind the scenes work. And at the time, especially with high school and college years, my ultimate goal was to be a sportscaster for ESPN because I'm a huge fan of sports. But over time, I felt that maybe just a little too much of a stretch. And I eventually kind of moved away. I'm more of a newsy person. I like to stay in touch with current events, pop culture, all of that. But anyways, I went through college, got my bachelor's, my undergrad studies at Northwestern Oklahoma State, my emphasis being radio. And then after college, I got a full-time radio gig, but about 6-7 months in, it didn't feel like for me. So I ended up leaving, but I had a little bit of background in kind of admin support / human resources. So I started going down in that field. And when I got hired with the city in 2015, I started in the HR department. And then started there for a couple years, transferred to our police department in 2018. I was still doing radio part-time on the side. And lo and behold, when COVID hit, at that point, the police chief and several others at the police department, they knew my background in communications. They knew I still had some involvement. And when COVID hit, the PIO sergeant at the time was having to help with COVID responses in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted me to start assisting the sergeant with social media posts, messaging, monitoring, all of that. And then when the police chief retired and the patrol captain got appointed, this was in March of 2021, he said, well, I'm just going to have you take over. You're doing great. And you seem to know. So it's like, I inherited the job, but it was something I'd wanted to do. And so, that's how I got really wrapped into the public safety sector of sorts. And then up until December was with them, but I'm still using a lot of that public safety mindset in what I'm doing right now with the city communications.
Right. All right. So I should have asked this before. I jumped over this question by mistake. Where is Garden City located in Kansas, and what's the population, if you know it off the hand?
Right. We are in Southwest Kansas. We're kind of the regional hub of our area. We've been growing for the last several years. We're currently at just over 35,000, but that population tends to almost double on the weekends as we have many visitors from out in the region or even out of state coming in for shopping and other attractions. So we're definitely growing. It's very interesting, Robert, because when I've been to different trainings, When I say I'm from Garden City, Kansas, they're like, "Oh, where's that?" And most of the time, people think, "Is that near Kansas City?" Like, no, we're on the complete opposite end of the state. And then I also have to deep dive, like, well, Kansas City, the part that you're probably thinking of, like the Chiefs and the Royals. I mean, that's
Mm,
technically Missouri. I didn't
yep.
know. So
Yeah, a lot of
complete
people don't
opposite end of
realize
Kansas
that.
City.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. All right, so for people who are listening who may work in smaller and mid-sized agencies, what does your typical work week look like?
That is just going to depend day to day, week to week. But usually, what's set in stone for me, anyways, every Monday morning, we have a department head slash agenda planning meeting where all of the city department heads come together. We look at upcoming items for our city commission meetings. Our city commission meets on the first and third Tuesday afternoons of every month. So we look at items that each department may be submitting, and then we go over, hey, just department happenings going on that week or even the following week. So it's a good way to check in, not only for like, hey, what's coming up on the upcoming city commission meeting, but for all of the departments to check in. And then just depending on how that week falls, like for example, when we're recording this, it's 4th of July week. So I know on the communication side, we are preparing or prepping for 4th of July content, kind of shared content, shared messaging between us, the fire department, and police department. We've also got some other community events that week. And so we're just trying to get our social, which we do every week. I should go back to that. Our social media content, we're always planning week by week. We try to do like on a 2 week increment, trying to plan out for those 2 weeks. So we're looking at the content that's going out, also kind of leaving some time if something comes up, which typically does, whether that's,
Yeah.
hey, a power outage or, hey, a department needs us for something last minute. So we just kind of, it's for week to week is just, we know the things that are going to happen and then we allow time, a little flexibility for us to be available if something does come up.
And it's not like that some department forgot that they had something coming up and they go, "Oh my god, we never sent it over to the communications person." And then, and then you're like scrambling to find space for something. That never happens, does it?
No, never in a million years.
All right, so Aaron, you just recently completed the FBI LEDA Master PIO course. What was your biggest takeaway from that experience?
It was such an honor. I know it almost sounds like cliche, but it was an honor for me to go through that program. And I think the biggest takeaway as far as the Master PIO program was being a little bit more intentional and strategic with the planning, the preparation of messaging and communication. So, in the event of like, hey, a big time live crisis or something that we know is going to develop, something happened in the community off duty, somebody involved, and then it, just billows and blows up from there. But it's also for me specifically just how we can continue telling our story when we may be limited in what we can put out. So, for example, with our police department, we do not release any body cam footage, whether that be just for clips for educational purposes or, hey, this is what happened at the scene, or even snapshots from a camera. So I can't like take, pull up a footage from a body camera of a blizzard response. I can't just take a picture from something like that. So I've had to find out, yeah, we're very, we don't,
Is that
it's,
a state law thing or is that just city law or city
that's
policy?
city. That's a
Okay.
city and police policy.
Okay.
Which has been, I mean, you look at all the other police departments out there in this country, and you have some that will pull the body camera not even 2 hours after something happened. They're
I've
ready to
worked for
share.
agencies, yeah. I've worked
Right.
for agencies like that where we put stuff out really quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even if it was, we had, when I mentioned the blizzard about 2 years ago, we had a blizzard come through. It was like January, and the city, the county, we were all prepared. Well, what ended up happening, we have a beef plant, Tyson Fresh Foods. They did not close, even though they had all this advance notice. They decided to stay open. And then when they closed the B shift right before they were supposed to come on, long story short, people got stranded out there. People
Mm.
got stranded out at the plant. People were stranded as they were trying to leave and come in. So that turned into, the next 12 hours, just like a whole crazy rescue operation. Well, some of our officers were out, in the middle of the night doing operations with other law enforcement agencies. And for a presentation, we'd used a snippet of the body cam footage. I think it was for our kind of after action report for the city commission. Well, I'd wanted to take like a even that 9-second clip or even a picture from that camera footage to show the public, hey, this is what was happening. And thankfully, no one was hurt, no one died, and we did what we did. But that was shot down, just
Mm,
kind of under the impression that if we start doing that for one event, we have to do it for all. So,
interesting. Interesting.
yeah.
Well, I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up at a later time when we
Yes.
get farther down in this. All right. So let me ask you this. So most police PIOs, they focus strictly on the law enforcement end of it, and when they
Mhm.
do their messaging. How has that changed now that you're doing city communications?
Well, I definitely don't have to worry, knock on wood, worry about jargon because now I feel like, hey, I'm a full time civilian again, which I was, obviously civilian in that position. I do want to mention that. We can wrap back to that. But with it being city communications, I know I don't have to worry about jargon so much, but it's still being consistent, being intentional as far as speaking in like clear language that everybody understands. And I've noticed too, I'd rather us repeat something, even if it's in like a graphic or something, in something as simple as repeating information that's in a graphic within like the post, because you might have people like read right over that, or somebody that's new to the community not sure, like, hey, where do you find city administrative center or city hall or some other landmark in Garden City? So I think it's been really helpful. It's just I don't have to worry so much about jargon, but I still making that intentional effort of clear consistent language where people everyone can understand.
And everybody has to do that. I mean, being
Hmm.
clear and consistent is so important
Hmm.
because it's so easy for people to lose context if there's some ambiguity in
Yeah.
language. Yeah. Do you find that your prior work with the police department gave you an advantage when a major incident happened because of the relationships and communication systems that were already connected?
I believe so. It is so important. I know we'll probably touch on this throughout the interview, but it's so important to build relationships. And it doesn't have to be not just necessarily within your organization in other departments. People like other stakeholders. I know that when something happens at the school district and vice versa, something actually happened I think it was a couple months ago. It was after school. There was a bomb threat got called in. I was coming home from Wichita from an appointment, but the public information coordinator from the school district, he knew he could call me because all the other first responders were tied up. So it's things like that. It's so important when, hey, or it's not even necessarily when an incident is occurring. It's something like, hey, this might be going down. Would you mind reading over this, see if this sounds good when we put this out to the
Yep.
public?
Incredibly important to get eyes on anything, and especially nowadays with the use of AI and stuff.
Yes.
So many people are glossing over the fact that you have
Hmm.
a computer doing something, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but you also have to keep in mind that there's got to be a process in whatever, regardless of whatever you're using it for, to review it by a human, no matter what. I mean, and there's some cases that happened recently with Flock. I don't know if you've seen any of that, the Flock security cameras where they videotape people going through traffic lights and things like that. And in one case, a person got arrested up in Duluth, Minnesota, and they were from Kentucky. They've never been to Duluth ever, but they got a percentage match on the video, and they issued a warrant for the person's arrest based on that. And they never sat down and said, let's compare the images and look at the percentages. They just assumed it was right because the AI said it was.
It is my take on AI. It's nice, like, hey, if you need like a second set of eyes,
Hmm.
even per se, to look at things, but we are dead set against using it to make graphics or any like content, any videos for us. I just feel like a lot of agencies or organizations here, I've noticed like you can definitely tell it was like Chat GPT or some kind of AI. They all have the same format of picture graphic, and no, many times I have found that the information is incorrect. They put a
Hmm.
wrong date or something, and no one seems to notice. But like, I think if it had been my city page or the PD's page, people will point us out. They'll call us out on
Yeah,
it.
and it's interesting
So,
because and I'm gonna go off on a tangent on this with the AI. I didn't plan on this, but it's just gonna happen. But I find that it's interesting that we have policies and procedures, especially in the law enforcement side of it for everything. but somebody said, "Oh, I'm just going to use this one time to like edit a picture. I wanted to put names in there or the logo of the agency." And then they don't realize that the AI not only put the logo in there, but it also altered the image, like evidence photos. And then they published it without looking at comparing it to the real one and not realizing it. Vancouver PD just had a big incident with this where they used AI to block out names of people, but
Mhm.
what they didn't realize is it altered the image completely, like changed the type of currency that was there and everything. It was just very embarrassing.
Yes, it's just all it would take is maybe 5 extra minutes to there's programs where Canva's one, Photoshop, or you can add
Photoshop, yeah. I mean,
yes, like, you can
you don't
like,
need
build
AI to do
yeah,
that.
there's, like,
Yeah.
proven tools that you can use to go right in and do what you need without it altering everything else. Because I did that only one time, like, doing the one of those photo trends from ChatGPT. It was the
Hmm.
one where you can turn people into action figures. So
Well,
I
yeah,
did that for
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
PD, and it turned out fun, but you have to get it right on the first time, the first all the prompts. You
Right.
have to get it right the first time. Because let's say it gives you back a draft and oh, I want to add maybe our logo, but then it'll change other things you didn't ask for it to.
Yep.
It's just not even worth the time.
And not only that, you can't use the free version. If you're going to use it, you have to use the paid version because it's the only one that's going to give you consistency and it's going to give you the highest level of intelligence that the LLM has. Without it, you're going to get embarrassed eventually. Bad
Yeah.
links,
It's just
hallucinations. All right, I've got to get off the AI, I think. All right, we're done.
I don't
All
mind.
right, so how do you balance transition excuse me, how do you balance transparency and consistency across departments when every division has a different priority and there's personalities involved?
I think regardless of personalities and maybe I think there's competing interests, even though we may all be in the same organization, there's always competing interests or maybe different areas of focus. I still, it's just a matter of kind of just sitting down and talking, like laying it out, like, hey, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we all work for the same organization. We should all want to be transparent and consistent for our community. They depend on it, they expect it, that's really just the simplest way of doing it. I think there's kind of a shared understanding of that, what I've come
Hmm.
across with all of our departments. And I think they kind of, in doing so, since the time I've been over in this role, it's just we've been wanting to showcase more of the projects that are going on within the city and just being upfront, like, hey, it's out there in the open. And if it's ours, like, hey, we can be talking about it. It is just we don't want that image or that perception, oh, we're just trying to hide things, push things under the rug.
Right,
Or I think
right. Yeah,
many
no,
communities, I think we've all at some point, every community has ran into that where you might have residents say, oh, this and that. But I think I think the consistent and transparent messaging further helps your storytelling.
absolutely. All right, so let me ask you this. So when a police issue maybe becomes politically sensitive, does being embedded in the broader city communication structure change how decisions are made?
Now that I'm over here, I'm curious. I haven't ran into that yet because
Okay.
when we'd had a couple issues at the PD that kind of made its way up to city management before it was communicated out, I can see where, hey, there was different input going on. But so far, I have not experienced that yet, but it will be interesting. I'm sure it will happen at some point because we always know, like, hey, it's going to happen.
Yep, it's
So
going
I'm
to happen at some
not
point.
answering that very well, but just
No,
right
it's
now,
fine. If you have an experience, that's great. That's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
All right,
but
so let's
I
talk about this. What lessons could a traditional police PIO learn from municipal government communicators and then vice versa?
so I'm going to say this with experience now that I've transitioned over and I can kind of look at it from an outside perspective. It is so important. And just, I think in general, police departments, when you make posts, don't make it sound like you're reading a police report. I'm full time civilian. That's one of the biggest takeaways that I took from the intro FBI LEDA, the
Hmm.
basic PIO class.
The
And
NPR.
then
Yeah,
went into the master and I had just done what was told, but over time after taking that first class, I changed how I wrote. It needs to read more like people can follow along. It's not a police report.
it
It's
has to be
not a
conversational.
yes,
In a
conversational.
sense.
get
Yeah.
rid of that jargon.
The one
There I
that
was
always
thinking,
kills me is when you see those social media posts from the police department. It's on their police department page, and it'll say the blah 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 police department strongly disagree. You're strongly wants people to pay attention to their driving at night because of the inclement weather. No doubt, it's from your police department. It's on their page. You just wasted 15 or 20 characters that you shouldn't even have put on there.
yes,
You're talking like you're writing a police report. Don't talk
it's
in the
like,
third person. You know?
yes, it's like, don't just say
Yeah.
like just the facts. Like, no, you got to have a little personality to it, or
Right. Use a
not full on
pronoun. We
emotion.
care about you.
Yes.
Drive carefully. You
Yeah,
know?
it's not full on emotion, but it's just like, hey, we get it. Life is tough. Just try to do it in a way that they can relate to you,
Right.
and you're
Right.
not like just preaching to them.
All right,
I-
let's say this. Let's talk about this. Garden City has a very diverse population.
Yes.
How has that shaped your communication strategy?
So right now we have at least 35 languages spoken within our school district, and
Okay.
we're kind
Yep.
of like a melting pot here in Southwest Kansas. We have so many different cultures and communities represented. I love it. That's one of the things I love about Garden City. We're so unique, so welcoming, and so diverse. With our communications, this was done in an external survey a couple years ago, but we found that residents really valued like our messaging come in English and Spanish translations. So at the very minimum, that's what we do. Whether it's like a fun little reel or a weather related post, all of our contact info or the content that is sent out, particularly on Facebook, is English and Spanish translated. Instagram, since that's kind of a different demographic, different
Mhm.
content there, not so much, but particularly Facebook, that is our biggest platform. And I think YouTube is really for us now, we just use it for our live streaming. And maybe with long form videos. So I think we may incorporate some translation there or utilize the translation tool there. In LinkedIn, we
Yeah.
just one language, just English.
All right. I like that. And I like the fact that you've realized that there's certain platforms that it's going to have to be a certain way just because if
Hmm.
the demographic changes or
Yes.
the age or, kids are Instagram, TikTok,
Hmm.
YouTube, short content and putting something long form on there is not going to work for them. Yeah.
Right. It's
All
kind
right.
of an
So
ongoing process with that. I mean,
yeah, it's
things
a
that I
learning.
will
It changes. It
Well, not
changes.
only the content, but even algorithms. Things that I'm sure you've ran into this, things that, when I first started this, oh, certain days of the week or this and
Nah,
that would
doesn't
get,
mean anything.
it changes every day. It's like it's thrown
Yep.
out the window.
Yeah, you cannot rely on those old adages of I'll post
Hmm.
on a Tuesday at 9 o'clock and post it at 1 o'clock on a Thursday for the maximum exposure. It does not
Hmm.
matter anymore that way. It'll change daily, hourly, depending on the demographic and yeah.
Yeah.
So how have you found that trust is built differently in smaller communities compared to larger metropolitan areas, maybe?
So I think what works for us is not only having the social media presence, and we're looking at growing that even more, but a lot of the behind the scenes work that people may not see. So, for example, when it's come to in the last couple of years, both city and PD, have had various issues that have gone to vote for the community. Our city and county leaders have went and spoken one-on-one with, hey, advisory groups, maybe local organizations, other private, I guess, vendors or stakeholders and such like that. So we have found ways not just people are seeing stuff on social media, but also using going face to face communication methods and helping kind of explain some of the information that they may see. We also have our communications department. I just went through it myself, but we do a yearly Citizens Academy. It's an 8-week civic engagement program where we have 20 to 30 residents sign up. And over the course of 8 weeks, they tour different city departments. They get to learn the ins and outs, kind of a better understanding of how local government works. So that was very successful. It's been very successful since its inception, which I believe was 2017, 2018, around there. And then we also have a capital improvement project committee. So every year toward the end of the year, first of the following year, we have, volunteer residents who come in here and listen to all the different various projects, kind of the wish lists of all of our departments wanting to do. It gets them kind of informed of, hey, what is the city wanting to prioritize or wanting to hear from the residents. It's what's important to them. So there's
right?
just a lot more face to face things that we do aside from social media.
All right, so
If that answers.
this probably that probably just answered my next question though.
Mhm.
What communication methods still work surprisingly well in communities that larger agencies may underestimate? And you kind of just answered that. So
Right.
yeah,
It's just
thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Just some of those more traditional methods
Right.
face to face. And we still have a local newspaper here. It's changed when they do have local content. I've had a good rapport with the reporter and staff there. And when I mean it's changed, it's, it's been bought out. It's now a tabloid style newspaper when they do
Yeah.
print. And a lot of the content is regional, not so much local anymore. But when we do have, local events happening, it's very important. Hey, if I have those relationships or I can reach out, like, hey, at least try to promote, call them up. Hey, this is maybe a story idea. I do that with, local and even regional media partners. I do want to mention one thing. I ran into this with the PD and obviously still now, but we do not have, aside from our local newspaper, we don't have much of a media presence as we did years ago. And especially a lot of that happened when COVID hit. The Wichita news stations had field reporters out here pretty much covering Southwest Kansas, but especially when COVID hit. And I think between that and staffing, maybe shifting priorities to Wichita related news. I mean, we don't have that anymore. So it's kind of, you got to find ways to get your story out there.
Right. Right. So your department is involved. Your city, I should say, is involved with live streaming meetings,
Mhm.
citywide digital communication, social media, text messaging systems, even as much local TV access as you can do. How important is it for the modern PIO to think beyond just putting that press release out?
Well, the press release itself, it's almost, I wouldn't say non-existent, but it does not, I don't think it's as effective as it used to be. And here's why.
I
Like
agree.
when I specifically have to, of course, most of my time was over at the police department. I'd feel that I'd send out just information on, as press releases. Sometimes they'd get picked up, sometimes they wouldn't. But then
Mhm.
we would have things. I started this thing called night shift news. It's really, but there would be things that would happen, particularly during night shift, that it wasn't like a full blown media release, but it was more than just a standard response on events.
Right.
So I would start kind of putting it out to the community, and I know they'd love it or they'd want some of the tea. But then I'd notice, like, hey, I didn't send any of the night shift news articles to the news stations, but they still picked it up. So it's kind
Yeah.
of, and that's how I started even on some of the what you would used to be media release material. I started doing it that way too.
Yeah. No,
So,
any way you can come up with something creative to get your word out, I think is incredibly important. I
mhm.
think a lot of agencies over the years they've transitioned to only putting things out on social media, whether it's a media release or their short form video. And I think sometimes they forget about their website
Yes.
or the other internal channels that they have within. And I'm a firm believer is you need to have a very robust website. It needs to
Yes.
be updated regularly, but that
Yes.
is where you're going to send people to because the way the algorithm works on social media, it changes so much that what information you may put out, it'd be so difficult for somebody to go scrolling through to find it that you're better off pointing people to your website, to get that information.
Absolutely. That's one of our projects too, is to kind of, so I have like basically a new roster. So I'm new. I mean, I'm not new to the organization, but new to this role. And I've got two staff members, one of them being new. She was hired in February. So we're a fairly new roster. And one of our goals this year and expectations is to keep our website current. And I know we've dealt with like the ADA accessibility on the website information
Mhm.
and all that, but until those deadlines, guidelines go into play. It's very important. Like some of our social media content, there are things that people really do need to go to the website for more information. There's more detailed maps, like our spring cleanup, our spring and fall cleanups, I should say, other mill projects or ways to pay your utility bill. We always get questions about that, no matter how many times we've advertised that. So there's
Just
definitely,
ordinances, just your city
yes.
ordinances to let the public know. I mean, you're not
Mhm.
gonna publish those on social
No,
media. You might
no
put
one's
the
going to
most
read through
common
them.
one that people violate all the time, but somebody's gonna wanna know something, so they've gotta be
Hmm.
able to find it on your website and get to it clearly. And
No,
and I also believe that, like, during a crisis, like, If you had a
Mhm.
major flood or something like that, you could put stuff out on social media all you want, but you need to be able to have a landing page where the public can come and say, okay, where do I get resources if I'm now
Yes.
homeless, or if I need to get clothing, or if I need water, or I need to talk to an emergency management person from FEMA. I
Yes.
mean, those are all things that you can easily put on a website page
Mm.
pretty quickly and make it a one-stop shop for your residents.
And that's what we have, but then we're currently just trying to go through and say like, "Hey, how can we better advertise this of sorts?"
Hmm.
Or even just kind of going back to the social media thing, pushing like, "Hey, for more information, visit our website." Always including those links to our website.
Yeah.
So it's
I
definitely
think the
a
more you do
project.
that, I think the more you push them, keep reminding them, go to the
Mhm.
website. This is where you get information. And then they go there and they can actually find it quickly.
Mhm.
I think that that's important. And I think that's where people, the websites that I've seen, sometimes you have to click 5, 6 times to get to where you need to go. And it's either you need to have a really good landing page, or you have to have multiple landing pages that get somebody quickly to
Mhm.
where they need to go within 1 or 2 clicks. Because if
Yeah.
people have to go 3 or 4 or 5 clicks down, they're probably not going to start continue looking for it. They
They're
get
just gonna give
frustrated.
up.
Well, they're going to ask AI, and AI is eventually give them the wrong answer. Probably
So I
that'll
have to
probably
point
happen
out
that way.
something really quick. We have, as part of our communication efforts, we have a city, or it's through CityBot, but we have like a virtual chat assistant. It's called
Hmm.
MyGCKS. It sends out text alerts, or residents can also submit service requests with this virtual assistant. But why I bring this up when we're talking about the website, if somebody asks a question or, needs a response from this chat bot, it is pulling information from our website kind of on the back end. So it's important. That's another reason that it's important to have information that's not only correct, but that can easily be found.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so you mentioned text notification systems
Mhm.
and direct to residence communication tools. How important is having that when you need to get information out fast to the public?
It's very important. We've used it. So we don't use it not necessarily just for emergency alerts, but here's different categories can include like, hey, emergency alerts, something that fire PDs work is seen that they're working. Utility disruptions, such like, hey, the power's out. We get a lot of calls for the
Yeah.
power outages, water main breaks, any upcoming road construction projects, that will delay or impact traffic. Any city closures. We've also started, any other community events, but we started this past year sending out reminders about trash pickup that is affected on holidays, and that's gotten a really good response. People are serious about their getting their trash picked up on time,
And
because
when
our
it doesn't
solid
get picked
waste
up on the
department,
day, yeah, because
yes,
of the
they
holiday,
will hear
they get
about it if
worked up.
it's like an hour late. So,
And then, of course, you got the one resident, they have their garbage cans out past the pickup time. What's the
yes,
problem?
yes, we've seen those complaints too.
Yeah. All right. So what's the biggest misconception people have about the role of the police PIO versus a city comms director?
So for the police PIO, I would hear this like on the comments all the time. I would say the biggest one is you just pick and choose who you blast on social media. It's like, hey, let's why are we justifying people who did bad things? But yeah, you
Ugh,
just pick and choose, or
yeah.
hey, there's more to this than the police are saying. They're hiding things.
No, of course, we're always hiding
Yes,
things.
they're always
Yep.
hiding. It's usually, I love it because the comments are usually coming from, it's usually family or friends of those who got arrested. And others, I
Hmm.
would love it when others would point out, like, well, why aren't you telling the police this information? So,
Exactly. Yep.
and
Yep.
we're reading the comments too, because it's come in handy when we've had missing or runaway people. Sometimes people let on stuff in the comments, and we kind of follow those and they work out in our favor. But those are the two biggest misconceptions for police PIOs. With
Okay.
me being a civilian, I didn't have to run into, I know that sworn PIOs usually hear, well, you're not real cops. So
Hmm.
I've
Oh
heard,
yeah,
yeah,
I've heard that in
I've
my
heard that from
civilian
past
commute.
ones. So
Yes, I've heard that before.
on the city side, I think the only one I've tried to kind of, if I were in somebody else's shoes, whether it be in the organization or the community, I think the biggest misconception is that all we do is post and scroll on Facebook all day. It's like there is so
Yes, little
much,
did they know how much you do.
there's so much
Yeah.
work behind the scenes. I think it's just like you got your hands, I should say hands, in multiple projects
Yep.
across different
Simultaneously.
departments.
Yep. Simultaneously. Yep. 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 All right, so let's talk about effective internal communication. What's it look between, giving the information to your employees as well? Because we give it out to the
Yes.
public. How do you do it with your internal staff?
That's been a work in progress. Coming over here, I think one of the things I've wanted to help improve is internal communications. I think how the information is going out because I can tell from different departments who is communicating with their employees and who are not, or let's say who is and who's not doing. Who's better at it and then who's not. And it's just working with others. Let's say if it's an HR related issue or payroll related issue or something that comes from a specific department, just actually working with that person or director, representative, and making sure that the message, hey, it's correct information. I think that helps a lot. Is hey, I don't want to speak for somebody and not get all the information. I'm not doing my due diligence and I'm, kind of slapping them in the face if I'm not going to them for the
Exactly.
information.
Yep. What part of the job gives you the greatest sense of purpose?
Man. From both my experiences here, it's been just hearing from community members that it could be anything from, man, I just love your content. It's so uplifting. It's so funny to, hey, thank you guys so much for the information. I didn't know something like I didn't know where to go till you put this out, or this is so helpful for people in our community. I've passed this along.
It's important to hear that. It really
Yes,
is.
you don't I think a lot of times there's so much noise out there and I think it's all human nature. We hear kind of the more negative. We hear everyone griping more than anything, but when you hear and see those comments, it makes the job so worth it. And also hearing from your peers too. Getting that peer support like, "Hey, you're doing awesome," or "I really loved what you guys did on this." And man, it everything looks so much better now. Things like compliments like that.
I like that. What communication skill do future PIOs absolutely need to develop right now?
You have to be multitaskers and you have to be, I mean, that's a general statement, but you have to be really ready for anything. No 2 days are the same. I would invest in, different trainings, introductory
Yep.
online trainings, kind of do at your own. It's hard. It's easier said than done. Looking at other governments, like not necessarily your competitors, but maybe other organizations within your community and other municipal governments or police departments or fire departments, whomever. What is your kind of your gig? Look at what other agencies are doing. It's not so much comparison, like, hey, but it helps as far as, okay, if we did something like that to convey our messaging, would it work? Or I know of some communities that can get away with a lot more. Like with us being so much diversity, we couldn't get away with some of the things that other communities are doing. But I just being open minded too.
I like that. Is there a
It's,
question? Is there a question I should have asked? And if so, how would you have answered?
I don't know. Oh my gosh.
I know
No,
I'm throwing a lot at you. I threw a lot at you.
no, you've answered, or sorry, you've asked and you've answered some too. I love the misconception one. I've
Yeah.
always wanted to say, like, this is, you know,
Right. All right. Let's go to some
we
rapid
get
fire
there.
questions. Your phone call, voice memo, FaceTime. What's your go-to for staying connected?
I think phone call.
Streaming binge or weekend read. What's your ideal escape?
I'm usually weekend read because my kids are all over the place and they're not going to let me binge watch. So I'm just reading.
Morning ritual, sunrise workout, quiet coffee, or news scroll.
Quiet coffee with news scrolling.
If you could adopt an animal, real or mythical, what would it be?
I have 2 dogs, 2 guinea pigs, and I think that's it. I want more. More dogs, guinea pigs, and then mythical creature wise, I would probably do like a unicorn.
Cool. What's the one song that always gets you moving no matter the mood?
Anything from Kiss. They're my favorite band.
Nice. Teleportation or time travel, which power would you pick?
Which ones?
Teleportation or time travel,
That one's tough. Okay, I'm gonna say time travel.
right? Play it safe or roll the dice. What's your instinct in a crisis?
Play it safe, and then when you have more information, you can tailor it and get that out.
Which historical figure would you want to shadow for an aid, not just meet?
Alexander Hamilton.
Interesting. Final thoughts. What key points would you like listeners to take from today's interview?
Work hard, stay humble, stay in tune with what's going on in your organization and the community. And just like I said, be a multitasker, work hard. I can't say it enough. Work hard and just be open minded and adaptable and committed to transparency and honesty.
Awesome. Erin, is there a motto or a piece of wisdom that you live by?
I have two. The first one is To handle yourself, use your head. To handle others, use your heart. That is from Eleanor Roosevelt. And the second one, I'm a big wrestling fan, and this has become like a mantra for me. It's from the late Scott Hall, and it is hard work pays off, dreams come true, bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
I
So
like that. And Erinn, if people wanted to reach out to you or connect with you with anything they heard today, how could they do that?
I'd be happy to answer or just connect, answer questions, connect. So I'm on LinkedIn,
I'll
Facebook,
put
and
that up in
Instagram
the
too.
show
But
notes.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll put that in
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. I'll put your LinkedIn in there.
Yeah,
They'll
it's like
find you
put my
there.
LinkedIn in, and then the city of Garden City, Kansas. Again, we're in Southwest Kansas, not near Kansas City. But we are currently on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and then YouTube. But you can find me. You can message on one of ours, like city info at Garden City KS.
And I'll add that in the show notes.
Yes.
Erinn, thank you very much for being on the show.
Robert, I appreciated this so much, more than you know. Thank you so much for having me.
And you're welcome.